Imagine a place where your hairstyle isn't even your choice, or where just reading the news is frowned upon, actively discouraged.
Yeah, or even where listening to a certain kind of music could get you into real trouble.
Exactly. The world is huge, it's varied, and that really shows up in its laws, doesn't it?
That certainly does.
Today, we're doing a deep dive into some fascinating insights. We're looking at an article from October 2019 called 10 Most Known Countries with the Strictest Laws, 10 Most Today.
Hmm.
And it explores these nations where rules are, well, super rigorously enforced, often because of deep tradition, religion, or, specific ways of governing.
Right.
So our mission today is to sort of unpack why these countries have such strict policies, what rules really stand out, and what does it all mean for residents and visitors too.
Yeah, get ready for some surprising stuff. It really makes you think about law, culture, society, that whole relationship.
Okay, so the source itself starts by saying, look, this strictness might seem rude, maybe intrusive to outsiders.
Uh-huh. But for people within that system, it's often seen as, well, necessary, an absolute necessity even.
That's a key tension, isn't it? That difference in perspective. We should keep that in mind as we go.
Definitely.
Okay, let's dive in. First up, Equatorial Guinea. What jumps out immediately, I think, is this active discouragement of reading and writing.
Yeah.
No newsstands, no bookstores. I mean, that just feels so counter to, how many of us think about basic freedom and knowledge access.
It's a pretty extreme level of information control.
Mm.
And it's not just literacy. Tourism is super low. Foreigners generally aren't even allowed in.
Really?
Yeah, and if you do get in, you're watched closely. You absolutely cannot film poverty or, certain other scenes.
And this goes back a ways, right?
It does. Since 1973, basically, when President Teodoro Obiang Nguema Mbasogo came in via coup, he controls all the radio and TV. It's all about managing the narrative, inside and out.
Wow. Okay, let's shift gears a bit from that kind of direct information suppression to maybe more culturally embedded rules. Saudi Arabia.
Right. Here, the laws are really deeply tied into tradition and religion.
And the social laws, especially for women, are known for being strict, like no casual clothes out in public, always needing a male relative chaperone.
Precisely. And it fits into a bigger picture. Their media, closely monitored, internet access, quite limited. It even affects senior editors. They risk being fired if they publish anything negative about the administration. A very comprehensive way to keep a specific social and political order.
Tradition and the state narrative are clearly paramount there. Now, sticking with that theme of religious and traditional law shaping daily life, Iran. The government operates under Sharia law.
Yes, which means laws derived directly from Islamic religious traditions. It influences everything: conduct, dress, public life.
And in Iran, it's not just propaganda against the government that's banned. Even, slightly negative comments about how things are run can cause big problems.
Absolutely. And it extends online, too. Just logging into Google, YouTube, Facebook, that can be an issue.
It's amazing how broad the control over personal expression is.
It really is. I mean, the rules even dictate appearance. Men can't just have any hairstyle. It has to be one Islam prescribes. Women have a strict dress code, the hijab, of course, and no skinny jeans, things like that.
And it goes beyond looks, right? Music.
Yeah, Western music like rap, jazz, rock not allowed. And alcohol is a strict no-go for everyone. It paints a picture of really thorough societal and personal regulation.
Then we have North Korea. The source calls it the only purely communist country right now.
Which implies that highly centralized, single-party state control over, well, everything.
They apparently accept visitors from some countries, but specifically not the U.S. or South Korea.
Right, and tourists who do go get assigned minders, personal escorts for the whole trip.
To make sure rules aren't broken, like speaking against the government.
Exactly. They manage or try to manage every single interaction. It's an astonishing level of control.
And the media, too, I assume.
Oh, totally. The administration controls all media, radio, print, TV. Everything's heavily censored. Internet. Basically just for the ruling elite, and even their activity is watched closely.
What about just moving around?
Citizens' movements are limited. You can't just loiter in a park. Every activity needs a valid reason. They even have something called the dating police to enforce rules against sex outside marriage.
Wow. Dating police. And it gets even more specific with personal stuff.
It does. Fashion is super strict. Women can't wear pants. Men have to get their hair cut every 15 days.
Every 15 days. And the penalty for breaking these rules.
Forced labor.
Forced labor. It really makes you pause and appreciate freedoms that many of us just take for granted, doesn't it? When you hear about rules for hairstyles or walking in a park.
It absolutely does. Moving on, there's Eritrea, ruled by President Isaias Afwerki since '93.
Okay.
And here again, total government and presidential control over news and writers. You need approval from the president's office before anything gets broadcast or published.
And religion.
Also controlled. Public worship isn't allowed. You have to belong to a specific approved sect to practice your faith. It's a system really designed for total control over information and spiritual life.
Now, Syria. A different context, more volatile, but information control is still a major tool, right?
Very much so. The article mentions the ongoing violence, government versus rebels, and the government uses nationwide communication blackouts, internet, mobile, landlines, specifically to shut down anti-government actions.
And they target journalists directly, too.
Yes. Foreign correspondents are banned, local news is strictly monitored, and Syrian journalists who act against the administration, well, they face torture or even death. The stakes are incredibly high if you try to report independently. Information itself is weaponized.
It's chilling. Okay, next up on the list is Cuba. Still communist, and like others, speaking against the government gets you into trouble.
Right. Internet monitored, writers posting anti-government views arrested and jailed. Standard playbook in some ways.
But there was a detail I found kind of interesting. Cubans can drink alcohol, but playing reggaeton music is banned.
Yeah, isn't that specific? It really highlights how control isn't always about the obvious political stuff. It can reach into cultural expressions that seem, harmless.
So even fun activities can be restricted if they're seen as carrying some kind of subversive message or influence.
Apparently so. It tells you a lot about the perceived power of culture.
Now, Japan is on this list, which might surprise some people. It's seen as so modern.
It might. The article suggests its modern government still shows influence from its feudal past. Strict social hierarchies, obligations.
And that plays out today.
Yeah, in rigid structures. Hierarchy is strong everywhere. School, office, work, even home. Japanese companies are known for strict work policies demanding high performance from everyone, top to bottom.
So it's a different kind of strictness, maybe. Less about overt political suppression, more about social order and performance.
In some ways, yes, it's embedded culturally. But, crucially, the source also mentions that discussing the Nagasaki and Hiroshima bombings in World War II is not allowed.
Ah, okay. So there's still that element of controlling the historical narrative, another form of information management.
Exactly.
Then there's Singapore, widely known for being very strict, right? Policies and rules for everyone, tourists and locals, even for small things.
Fines for spitting, smoking. The article even says inappropriate dress could potentially lead to jail time.
But here's the interesting contrast. This strictness is often linked to positive outcomes.
Right. That strong adherence to rules, even minor ones, is credited with helping build Singapore's world-class economy and high living standards, sometimes even compared favorably to advanced European nations.
So it's presented almost like a trade-off, strictness for prosperity and order?
Kinda, yeah. It challenges the assumption that strictness is only ever about repression. It shows a different model, or at least a different justification.
Okay, and finally, China. Communist country, massive booming economy. But the rules are clear.
Very clear. Anti-government propaganda. Traced immediately, those responsible are silenced. And trying to instill Western influences in young people is actually a crime.
And again, media and internet monitoring.
Oh, definitely. Strictly monitored. And like Japan, in a way, there's control over history, too. Discussing rebellion, reform, change, especially Tiananmen Square in 1989, is forbidden.
It's a really comprehensive approach to managing public discussion, identity, how youth see the past and the world.
It is.
So we've gone through quite a few examples. When you step back and look at all of them, what really stands out to you? Any common threads or patterns?
Well, one thing that just keeps popping up is information control. It feels almost foundational in many cases.
Yeah.
Whether it's Equatorial Guinea discouraging basic literacy, or China and North Korea meticulously censoring the internet, or Syria banning foreign journalists. So many of these places heavily restrict access to information or the creation of it.
News, social media, history.
Exactly. It's not just about what people can't say, it's often about what they can't even know.
That's a powerful point. And it bleeds into personal lives too, right? We saw so many examples of controls on personal freedom, personal expression.
Definitely. Strict dress codes, limits on music, restricted movement, even rules about hairstyles, like we discussed.
Yeah.
And always severe consequences for dissent. The level of micromanagement in a place like North Korea is just, well, It's hard to fathom sometimes.
You also see how the style of governance shapes things. Communism, Sharia law, deeply embedded traditions. They
Uh-huh.
don't just influence the laws, they seem to define what order even means.
Precisely. And while some of it is clearly about maintaining political power, it's interesting how in places like Singapore, or maybe even Japan to an extent, the strictness gets explicitly linked to societal harmony or economic success, a different justification.
Right. And the consequences, as we mentioned, they vary hugely. From fines in Singapore to forced labor in North Korea or torture and death in Syria, it really hammers home that these aren't just like abstract rules. They have severe real-world impacts reflecting government priorities.
And it makes you think about control more broadly. It's not just about managing current behavior, is it? It's often about shaping perception, identity, public memory, controlling the narrative long term.
Yeah.
Maybe less about just immediate order and more about preserving ideology or cultivating a specific national character.
So we've seen this spectrum from Equatorial Guinea to China, nations with incredibly strict laws touching daily life, information expression in ways that can be quite startling. This deep dive really shows a complex range of control.
It really does. And it forces you to think about how different cultures, different systems define freedom and security. So when you consider these examples, the suppression of thought, the regulation of appearance, what balance do you, the listener, think societies are aiming for between individual liberty and collective control? And what are the trade-offs, maybe the less obvious ones, on either side? It really raises some big questions.